You thought I went away. You thought you got rid of me. Sorry about that. I hit a wrong button. I turned off my camera right in the middle of the live feed. So I apologize for the technical difficulties. It was all operator error on my part. So without any further ado, what was I talking about? I was talking about progress on our exhibit. So my car is in its parking place today because it is gross and rainy outside today. So can't have the garage door open much because it's not just rainy, but it's windy. So, because we live in Kansas, and that's what it does here at springtime in Kansas. So I've done very little with our terrestrial dragon this last couple of days. I will be adding more to it. Basically, what I'm still working on is I'm kind of stumped and puzzled with how this year is going to look. I don't know if I like it or not. I don't know if I want to leave it alone. So I'm just kind of puzzling over that. And I think I'm going to add a little fleshy part right here on the nose. So once I get all of this stuff assembled, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I think this will pretty much be called finished. So hopefully that'll happen in the next couple of days. And of course, there's Tiki Bat. And let's see if I can remember how to work my computer here. And I'll pull up the reference of what Tiki Bat is supposed to look like. He looks horrible right now, honestly. And that's the trick of these things is when you're constructing them, it's really easy to get discouraged because halfway through, some of these things look pretty bad. So Tiki Bat here is not looking much like a bat right now. It's looking pretty chewed up. It's looking pretty bad. And my subterranean dragon was looking very similar there for a while. And it would be very easy for me to go, you know what? This looks terrible. I want to quit. But the secret of this kind of thing is to keep going and don't talk yourself out of finishing out a project because there's a lot more that has to happen with this before it starts looking like anything like you had envisioned in your concept. Unfortunately, my computer is refusing to work with me, so we'll come back to that at some point. But I did a little bit of work on Tiki Bat. You can start to see he's starting to become more 3D and less two-dimensional. And his head has been a challenge. I'm still working on that. So we'll come back to Tiki Bat, but I like Tiki Bat even though he's not part of our exhibit. This has been a really good way to show how I get from a block of foam to a final product. So I didn't do any fast, whatever you call it, fast animation, time lapse videos of working on him last night, but I'll try to do that over the weekend and just sort of post some progress videos online just for those who are interested. So now we come to what I've been putting the most work in this week, which is our subterranean dragon here. And as you can see, I've got most of this side of the texturing done here. And I'm working at sort of carving out and sort of texturing out the eyes, making sure they're pretty even. And you can see that now that there's texture on here, now that I've got all the scales and it's got that pebbly texture on his face, he's starting to come to life. When you look at the stuff that hasn't been textured yet, it looks pretty sloppy. It doesn't look like a finished product. And what's great about doing this kind of texturing is you can actually work with the raised sections here and make them into individual scales. So what you end up with is an animal that has very sort of, I guess, individually varied scales. So it looks very organic. So that is kind of the progress I've made on the subterranean dragon. So my goal is for the weekend to be able to get the top and the other side finished and be completely done with the texturing and have this guy ready for painting by the beginning of next week. So I will be able to, when I do my next live feed, go into how I mix the rubber paint. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit warmer so it won't take forever for this thing to dry. And I'll have to get my shop vac out here and clean off my workspace so I don't have sawdust sticking to my paint, because you definitely don't want that. So that's the goal. Is I'm going to keep working on this over the weekend so that he's fully textured, ready to be painted, hopefully by Monday. And that will be something that I think will be a little more interesting to watch. And of course, Tiki Bat will be getting some attention, and we'll try to finish out our subterranean dragon. Once this guy is painted, I'll start working on the eyes. I've got a couple of really cool ideas for the eyes. I'll also start working on the teeth and the tongue. And what I've decided when I met with the student interns who've been helping me with this project is, it's always good to have meetings, even if they're long distance Zoom meetings. But when I met with the students and when I was telling them that I decided to go with a blue-tongued skink as my real life model for this thing, and I showed them the blue tongue, like I said yesterday, there's very, very little that you need to imagine when you look at a blue-tongued skink to really turn him into a dragon. So because he's got that bright blue tongue, it gave me an idea. What if this animal used his tongue as a lure, or as in the case of the skink in real life, he uses it to scare off his predators. But what if this big tongue that he's got, and let's say he's got a big sort of fat forked tongue that looks a lot like a skink tongue, but what if it actually glowed? What if it lit up? So I'm considering ways to add lighting to the roof and bottom of the mouth, above and under the tongue, so it looks like it's sort of luminescing. So that'll be a lot of fun. Again, I've got ideas for the eyes, and again, I'm considering lighting up the eyes so it looks like they will be actually sort of reflecting or luminescing from the inside. So this will be a very, very unique looking dragon when we're done with it. So next step is to finish texturing and go for paint. So I will probably periodically post some time-lapse videos of my progress throughout the weekend. And hopefully when we get to 2 p.m. Central on Monday, when it's time for me to do my live feed, I'll have a lot of progress made and it will be time to start painting. So this is going to be a very quick live feed. If you're really interested in this stuff, watching this stuff sort of progress, stay tuned, because I will be uploading time-lapse video of me doing all the work on this. And I'll continue to do that because I think that's a much more interesting way of showing how I do this, rather than doing all of this carving in real time, because that gets boring to watch. So I think shorter sort of introductions to what I'm doing and then following up with the time-lapse progression is a better way to do this. So unless there are questions, if anybody has a question for me, now would be a good time, or comments or suggestions, or anything that you want to know about. I'm always here. I'm always interested. And that's why we do the live feeds, is to interact with our public, even though we don't have a whole lot of people that can come in the museum right now. We are still here, we're still working, and we're still thinking about how to best present to you learning and education programs about natural history and interesting ways to look at that. So where do I get the foam? That's a really, really good question. And this is something that has me stumped, because I have to get a hold of a bunch more foam to create my third dragon. And I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to source that from right now. I have found a source online that could give me large chunks of sort of mattress-sized chunks of this foam. So that's what I'm investigating now. But here, up to this point, I've been sourcing this locally. So this comes from, I think I got most of the stuff at Walmart. They sell craft foam. And you see these lines here. This is actually, it looks like 1 inch thick craft foam, or maybe 2 inch thick. And what I had to do to get it to be a big chunk is I had to glue these individual pieces together. So that's what these yellow stripes are, is that's contact cement holding actually smaller chunks of foam together. So this is not the most efficient way of doing it, but this was what I could get a hold of locally. It was not very expensive. And one of the things that's been on my mind since this whole pandemic thing happened and we've been social distancing and a lot of stuff is shut down is, how do I get a hold of stuff? Where can I go to get my supplies without having to spend a lot of money or be around a lot of people? So that is something that is challenging, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get another supply or a big chunk of foam in. And what this is it's not styrofoam. It is actually upholstery foam or craft foam. And the reason I choose this material above something that I could carve out and it could be a lot more sturdy, I could cover it with an epoxy coating, is I'm worried about transporting this. So I want to be able to transport as many of these really cool exhibit pieces as possible and not worry so much about them breaking or cracking or, getting damaged. And the other thing is, even styrofoam with epoxy coating over it weighs quite a bit. This actually is very lightweight. If it drops, it bounces. So I don't worry as much about things getting broken, and I don't worry about how hard this stuff is going to be to move. It's big and it's bulky, but it's not heavy. So that's something that I've learned over the years of just doing outreach programs and presenting at different conventions around the state, is sometimes it's only me. Sometimes it's me and another volunteer or a student. If I'm really lucky, I get a couple of volunteers or a couple of family members that will come and help me get things set up. But a lot of the time, it's just me out on the road. So I have to be able and prepared that if I can't find a volunteer or if another person is not available to help me go on the road and do this stuff, that I have to be able to do it myself. And that's why, when I wanted to go big, I definitely didn't want to spare the detail. And as you can see, this stuff takes detail really well. But I wanted to be sure that I could bring these out and load these things up and set these things up if it's just me. So, or by, some horrible stroke of luck, if I get, let's say, hit by a bus or something, and suddenly one of my colleagues at the museum is like, wow, Ian had a bunch of different things scheduled with this thing. We better take it out and do this. They would be able to, get this stuff and not have to worry about all of those things that I've just talked about. It's a relatively easy thing to, load up and, set up and all that kind of stuff. So these are all things that I think about when I've been designing this particular exhibit. And this is all through kind of a learning curve because, you don't think about these things. So when I built my first large size creature, I didn't think about breaking him into components. I just built him. And then I think it was my boss walked in one day and said, how are you going to transport this thing? And I was like, oh, yeah. So then I had to go back and figure out how to take it apart in sections and sort of had to do a quick redesign. So sometimes it's easy to overlook really obvious things. So that's why I like having people around. So if there are no further questions or comments, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the day. And I probably won't do a live feed until Monday, but I will try to every once in a while post a progress video on the Sternberg Facebook page of what I'm doing here. And hopefully we'll get closer to done with this particular part of our exhibit. So things to look forward to next week. We're making progress. So as usual, please like and share these live feeds. It's important that people know we're here. We're still doing our thing. It's really important to Seamus that you share this. Again, we welcome comments and suggestions. And if there are any teachers out there or community members that are wanting us to do something, let us know. We're here. And, if you've got need for an education program or informative talk, well, we're here for that. So be sure to let us know. Anyways, I guess I'll flip this around so you can see me talking to you. I wore a baseball hat. It's not very professional, but I've been in the shop for several hours and I don't know. That's what I did. Anyways, I'm blathering now. So I'm going to sign off. Everybody be happy and be healthy, and we will see you next week. And keep your eyes out for the video that I'll be uploading just after this. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.